Chief, thank you for not only your time today, but for your service as a police chief who's dedicated to keeping their community safe. So, Chief, let's get right into it. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about your law enforcement background, as well as your journey to becoming Chief of Police at South Brunswick PD.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. My law enforcement career started in 1988. I have approximately 31 years service now. I started out in the New Jersey Department of Corrections as a corrections officer, worked there for approximately a year. Then I went over to the city of East Orange, where I served as a patrol officer. Eventually, I ended up in South Brunswick as a lateral transfer, and I worked my way through the ranks. In 2005, I was promoted to Chief of Police, where I'm currently working, obviously.
Well, Chief, thank you for providing that background information for us here. Let's take a step into the extra duty world. Prior to partnering with us, let's backtrack here. What were some of the common challenges your agency faced regularly as it related to your extra duty?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that we had, well, there was two components. One, internally, we're a busy department. We put out approximately 10 to 15 cars a day, and we would get a lot of calls, and the town is changing, a lot of construction. Quite frankly, it wasn't a very desirable assignment to be the person to take those calls. As the town's been growing, it evolved to a full-time job. The civilian personnel that was handling the job, approximately 95% of her time, we figured, was on that. Her original job was in the training office, so the training component suffered, and her job really became full-time off-duty work. In addition, my accounts clerk, we were paying her overtime because the amount of billing and chasing the funds down, approximately 20% of her time was dedicated to that function. In addition, I don't think we had the service when we were doing it in-house. The person works 8 hours a day. Now they leave their desk, they go to lunch, we're missing calls, so it's on an answering machine. The person takes vacation, we had to have somebody fill in. The person, they may have not known the job as well. So we would miss jobs and we would miss calls, and it would impact traffic and it would impact the customer service. So the beauty of this is now there's one line, it's 24/7. EDS always answers the phone. We don't have to wait till the answer machine comes in. And once again, prior to that, they might call the midnight officer and say, we need somebody, and they would fill out some forms and leave it for the civilian person. They didn't understand, they didn't get all the information. It just wasn't a familiarization to the person, the random person taking the call. All those problems have been resolved.
So did migrating to EDS help solve any or all of these problems? It looks like it has. So why don't you go into a little more detail how that's currently working for you, having Extra Duty Solutions administer your entire extra duty program?
Well, obviously, we were able to remove the person doing the job and reassign her to another job, which her original job was training. That took care of that. Also, we don't miss phone calls anymore. I believe she spends about 1 hour a week, she told me, on Extra Duty Solutions, and usually it's just coordination with the traffic bureau because they have to have pre-construction meetings. So it really resolved those problems.
Chief, when you decided to migrate to having EDS administer your program, were there some individuals or groups in favor of that transition? And then on the other side of the spectrum, were there some against the decision?
Well, the civilian and the accounts clerk were very interested in looking at it, and because it would lighten their workload and they could function on their primary task or their original task. The union was adamantly opposed to it. So I did sit down with them, I explained it to them. Extra Duty Solutions came in and explained everything, and I made a deal with the union. I said, we will try this on a 90-day basis. I could tell you right now, we cannot take this away from them. Their big concern was they thought they were going to lose work because there was a fee tacked on. We did not get one complaint in that area.
That's great. And Knowing what they know now, since you've migrated to Extra Duty Solutions and been utilizing our services for some time, what would those naysayers possibly say now about the transition and how it's been working between EDS and your agency?
It's made for a more balanced system. It's more fair. Prior to us having the system, we had a sign-up sheet, which was in our muster room where they do briefing. And if you were off, you didn't know about a job, or you would have to call somebody and say, is there anything available? And we have a fair system. There's a bumping system. It's so much easier now. One officer explained it to me. He said, now I'm sitting on my couch and I know if a job comes in, it's all electronic. I could sign up right online. I could bump an officer online, under our equity system. In addition, it's made a more balanced workforce because more people are working it. It's not the same people working it all the time because more people see the opportunity. For example, one officer said, I went to my kid's Little League game, it got rained out. While I'm going home, I got an off-duty job. And he said it was able to provide for the day because I made a good day's pay. Had I known that, I lived 45 minutes away, I would have never known about that job.
You also mentioned briefly, you touched on your job awarding process at South Brunswick and how it works, how it operates. It seems that you have a pretty complex detail awarding process. Was the transition to the EDS service smooth or difficult for your agency?
It was very smooth. Obviously, you have to go through a bidding process in New Jersey. There's the local finance rules you have to follow. EDS was great. They put out the proposal. The RFP came out. It was done exactly as we requested. A lot of times these bids and proposals are rejected because the rules are not followed. We looked at it. We voted on the governing body voted on it, and it was a smooth, easy transition.
Well, that is definitely music to our ears, and we're certainly happy to hear that it's working out well and the transition was so smooth for your agency. Were there any unforeseen benefits in the EDS service which your agency is benefiting from now? Maybe anything you didn't expect prior to the migration?
As I said before, the reduction of the workload, I personally didn't realize how much time it was taking. A big benefit is we don't have to chase money down like bill collectors. In the past, I couldn't believe how many times we'd have outstanding accounts. In New Jersey, you're required to pay the officer the week after or within that pay period when they worked. So now the money is in. There are times when we were negative in the account and we would have to go to the town and get the money and take it from another account while we were waiting to collect the money. Sometimes we would wait 90 days, 6 months to get money. This one really surprised me. The vendors are happier because they now have 24/7 access. Somebody answers, they know who they're dealing with. They've learned with construction projects, they actually call EDS and say, we're going to have some traffic slots, but we've already contacted the traffic bureau. They know who to speak with already. And finally, what really pleased me is the benefit that more officers are working it and it's less burnout. It's always tempting to make more money, but the opportunity is spread out throughout the department. And I think that's the best benefit. It's more balanced. Other officers see the opportunity and everyone benefits from it. We have more officers on the street and there's no cost to the taxpayer with this extra duty solution. We don't have to lay out any money. We didn't have to buy any program. Extra duty solutions bears all the upfront cost and everything is put on the vendor. I believe everyone wins. I believe the taxpayer wins, the police officers win, and the agency overall benefits.
Chief, thank you so much again for your time today. We really do appreciate it. And before I let you go, selfishly, I'm going to ask you one more question since I have you on still. And that is, if you were speaking to another agency that was possibly considering having a third party administer their extra duty program, what advice would you give them and what would you tell them about EDS?
I would say it's a great company. They're very professional and just give it a try. When you do business with a company and they say there's no time commitment. You can get out on 30 days notice. That's unheard of in New Jersey. So it's just something, just try it. It's a great company. It's a great product. Your agency will benefit from it.
Okay, great. Chief Hayducka from the South Brunswick Police Department in New Jersey. Thank you again for your time.